In the world of horror, some of the most terrifying sounds are the most human ones. Not a monster's growl, but a child's laugh in an empty house. Not a demon's shriek, but a floorboard creaking upstairs when you're home alone. And in the dormitories of Nigerian boarding schools, the most feared sound of all is the elegant, rhythmic step of a woman's high heels on a concrete floor, long after midnight. A sound that announces the arrival of a teacher whose lessons are on pain, and whose final exams are on survival. A sound they call koi koi. My name is Adana. When my parents sent me to a government boarding school deep in the countryside, I thought the worst I'd have to deal with were mosquito nets and bad food. I was a Lagos girl, raised on logic and traffic jams. The whispers that filled the dormitory after lights out felt like childish ghost stories, country fables meant to scare new students like me. My bunkmate, a timid girl named Saad, was the first to tell me the rules. You must never leave the dorm after 10, she'd whispered, her voice trembling in the dark. If you need the toilet, you wake someone up. You never, ever go alone. Why? I'd asked, rolling my eyes in the darkness. Because of Matron Davies and her cane? Saad went quiet for a moment. No. Because of her. The story, as they told it, was always the same. Decades ago, there was a teacher known for her beauty and her cruelty. She was obsessed with a pair of exquisite, bright red high heels, which she wore every day. The sound of her shoes, koi koi koi, on the polished floors was a signal of impending punishment. One day, the story goes, she was unjustly fired. On her way out, she was either killed in an accident or murdered by vengeful students, the details lost to time. All they found was one of her red shoes. Now, her ghost roams the school grounds at night, forever searching for her missing heel, and unleashing her bitter rage on any student she finds wandering the halls. I told them it was nonsense. A story to keep us in our beds. I was wrong. My education began a week later. It was a stiflingly hot night, and the generator had cut out, plunging the school into an absolute, inky blackness. That's when I heard it for the first time. It was coming from the direction of the old, abandoned administrative block. It was faint, almost imagined. But it was there. Rhythmic. Steady. I held my breath, listening. It continued for a minute, then stopped. When I asked Saad about it the next morning, she simply stared at her food, her face pale. She's walking tonight, was all she said. The sound became a regular feature of our nights. Sometimes distant, sometimes seeming to come from the next building over. We grew used to it, the way you grow used to a ticking clock. It was a part of the school's grim lullaby. But then, a girl from the next dorm over, a prefect named Beezy, got sick. A fever that wouldn't break. While delirious, she kept crying about a woman in red she saw standing at the foot of her bed. The matrons said it was malaria. We knew better. Fear started to curdle the air of the school. Students walked in groups. The laughter in the hallways felt forced. My own city-bred confidence was eroding, replaced by a gnawing anxiety. I started paying attention to the shadows, flinching at every unexpected noise. My true test came during midterms. I had stayed up late to study, huddled under my blanket with a small torchlight, long after the official lights out. The dormitory was silent except for the soft breathing of 30 other girls. I had just closed my textbook when the sound started again. My heart froze. It had never been this close. The air grew cold. I squeezed my eyes shut, praying for it to go away. It wasn't a knock. It was the sound of a pointed heel striking the metal. A sound of impatience. Of command. I could hear Sod whimpering in the bunk below me. We lay there, frozen in a collective, silent terror for what felt like an eternity. And then, the sound started again, moving away, growing fainter as it walked down the path towards the toilets. The next morning, we found something on the path. Scratched into the dirt, as if by a sharp object, was a single, perfectly formed question mark. A warning. A promise. Beezy's fever worsened. She was sent home. We never saw her again. The night of the final exams was the night it all came to a head. A brutal storm had knocked out the power lines, and the backup generator refused to start. The school was darker and quieter than ever before. This time, there were no crickets, no wind. Just a suffocating, waiting silence. Around midnight, it began. Every girl in the dorm was awake. You could feel it. The shifting of bodies, the muffled gasps. No one dared to make a sound. The footsteps came closer. Koi, koi. The sound echoed off the concrete walls, a funeral drum marking its approach. Koi, koi. It was the sound of pure, undiluted menace. It stopped directly outside our dormitory door. The silence that followed was a physical thing. It pressed in on my ears, on my chest. I buried my face in my pillow, my body rigid. I could hear Sod below me, her teeth chattering. We waited. A collective, silent scream went through the room. The door opened a few inches, casting a thin sliver of absolute blackness from the hallway into our room. And in that sliver of darkness, something stepped into view. It wasn't a whole figure. It was just a foot and an ankle. Pale, almost luminous in the oppressive dark. And on the foot was a shoe. A high-heeled court shoe, impossibly clean, impossibly elegant. And it was the color of fresh blood. The shoe lifted and tapped the floor once. Koi. A sound that was no longer a footstep, but a declaration. A sound that said, I am here. I see you. I don't know what broke the spell. Maybe it was Sod letting out a choked sob. But at that moment, a girl in the far corner of the room screamed. A raw, piercing shriek of pure terror that shattered the silence. It was like a switch was flipped. The shoe instantly retracted back into the hallway. And then, the sound of footsteps again. But this time they weren't walking. They were running. A frantic, furious koi 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 that faded down the hallway with terrifying speed. I left that school at the end of the term. My parents were furious, but I refused to go back. I couldn't explain it to them in a way they would understand. How do you explain a terror that is carried on a sound? I live in Lagos now, back in my world of logic and concrete. I am surrounded by noise. The roar of traffic, the call to prayer, the blur of a million lives. There are no long, dark hallways here. No silent dormitories. I thought I was safe. But sometimes, when I'm working late in my office, in a tall skyscraper that scrapes the clouds, after everyone else has gone home and the building has fallen quiet, I hear it. From the empty marble hallway outside my door, I'll hear a faint, rhythmic sound. It might be the security guard on his rounds. It might be the settling of the building. It might be nothing, but my blood still runs cold. Because I know that some teachers never stop looking for new students. And the most terrifying lessons are the ones you can never, ever unlearn. Every school has its ghost. Every hallway has its echo.